board. Not a very large agenda today, so we'll take the matters as they arise within the agenda. Any apologies for absence, Carl?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor O'Boyle from Coventry City, Councillor Wazim Ali from Sandwell, Councillor Mike Bird from Walsall, Councillor Jefferson from Stratford-on-Avon with Councillor Matt Jennings substituting. Then also apologies from Andy Williams and Richard Moon from Coventry City, Paula Diaz from Coventry Warwickshire Lep, Richard Lawrence from Wolverhampton, Roger Mendonca from the Growth Company, and Nick Oakley from West Midlands Development Capital.
So the question is, are we quorum?
We are, Chair.
Okay, that's fine, as long as we can get on with the business, that's fine. Okay, notification of substitutes. Matt's here on behalf of Councillor... sorry?
That's Councillor Jennings for Councillor Jefferson.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Declaration of interest, anyone? Declaration of interest. If anything arises in the conversation, then obviously you can make your declaration accordingly, but there's no indications at this point that I can see. One hand up, Councillor Steve Simpkins, please.
Yes, Chair, it's on the agenda. Pipe Hall, Bilston, Cabinet Member and local elected member for Bilston East, where the Pipe Hall is situated. Ongoing.
That's fine. Thanks very much for that. Okay, you have before you, or you should receive the minutes of the previous meeting, 15th of February. We are just taking those for noting. Any issues that need to be raised at this point in time? Not that I know of, and I've got no updates on any of those. Okay, that's fine. We'll take those as noted. Therefore, we move to item 5 on the agenda, which is at page 9 to 28. It's the investment programme updates. I've got Ian Martin here and Linda. Which one of you is going to take it? Ian?
I'm happy to do that, Chair.
Thank you.
So funding commitments remain the same with no approvals last month at 795.3 million of what was the 801 million headroom. That, as you'll recall, was approved by the CA board back in November 2019. On Friday, WMCA board was held and agreed that, subject to overview and scrutiny, as all these decisions are, the headroom would be raised by £70 million. That also included a provisional distribution. So on next report, we'll be showing headroom at 871 million. The spend at the moment, or the costs incurred drawings, is now £265.3 million, and is kicking up slightly, so it's rising generally each month on month as schemes progress and start getting hold. We also said that we report back on SQW, despite the fact that only a few more days to go for kind of receipt of gateway money. We haven't yet heard from HMT that they've approved, as far as I was aware on Friday when I checked anyway. I'm hoping for some news this week. I can only say no news must be good news. And everything seemed to be going fine before, so we're hoping that's just a matter of process. Would you like me to move into the dashboard or pause there?
No, just hold. I'll just give an update to the board on the issue of the increased headroom, the £70 million. Linda's on the line as well to add any technical details if need be. But as you know, due to the low interest rates currently within public work loan boards, we have been able to flex the investment programme by another £70 million. But clearly there are elements within that £70 million which need to be assigned or ring-fenced for the risks within the overall budget that we currently face. Those risks are predominantly around transport. So quite clearly the revenue elements within the transport portfolio have not been coming through due to bus, metro and train passenger usage. And therefore, and Linda may have to correct me, we put £10 million aside to manage the risk in the budget with regard to revenue implications for transport. However, we are hoping that the government will, of course, as they've previously done, support the transport network from a revenue perspective. And although we've ring-fenced that sum within the budget, obviously if the government come forward with any further funding, then that would perhaps mitigate the need to utilise that. But it's a risk and we therefore have to manage it. On the capital programme, predominantly around some of the capital schemes, again impacted by COVID primarily, we have a number of risks in the capital programme, and we've therefore assigned a further £5 million for the capital risks in the budget. So we've ring-fenced 15 million of the 70 million at this point in time for those particular purposes. There were a couple of other issues that were required to be utilised at this point in time within the 70 million. The risk of Perry Bar Station not being delivered. So we've set aside £9.5 million within the budget to deliver Perry Bar. But of course, that potentially again is subject to other funding coming through. So we'll be working on that with DFT to see if we can establish, or other partners, to establish where that £9 million may come. The other big investment that we've assigned, subject to governance, I might add, is the issue around the 2041 5-year plan. As you know, or may know, we hadn't got very much in the budget to deliver 2041, which is the environmental plan going forward for the next 5 years, i.e. with regard to carbon reduction and other green proposals. So we have set aside £5 million of the £70 million to deal with issues around the green towards 2041 agenda. That will be subject to separate governance arrangements, in the sense that the £5 million will have to be obviously audited with regard to where it's going to go. Other sums have been identified, and those will obviously have to again go through the normal governance arrangements within the combined authority, or even to come back to this board. So I just wanted to give you an update. So in essence, and Linda again might have to correct me, about £40 million of the £70 million, I think we've probably identified that needs to be utilised to manage the risk within other areas that we've already agreed, actually. So that's where we are. So there's still headroom in that. And of course, if those sums aren't used for the purpose they've been ring-fenced for, they do come back into the investment programme for further investments across the region. Linda, do you want to add anything at this point?
So just to say, as a result of the Councillor Slay, absolutely spot on in terms of the breakdown of the allocations. Just to say, as a result of the board meeting then on Friday, the board agreed both the WM 2041 and the Coventry Electric bus approvals. So that takes some further funding out of that. So essentially, at the minute, holding most of it for risk and pre-existing commitments that the board has already made, it leaves a figure of 15.4 million available for us to bring through this board for regional recovery proposals that may come through.
Sorry, does anyone wish to ask any questions on that? It's as I said, it went through the board on Friday, and that's where the board currently stands. Okay, the other important piece of news again for the board is, as you are aware, within the Chancellor's announcements, we managed to get £50 million for the Urban Growth Company proposals around the hub, well, that is HS2, and we have to therefore match fund that. Treasury are looking for us to match fund that, and there are governance arrangements in place to actually take some of that forward. We already have a previous board approval, and of course came through this investment board for £169 million to be underwritten by the combined authority and the local authorities with regard to the whole issue around the interchange station and the surrounding land issues, obviously to unlock those. But again, there will be clear governance arrangements in place to bring those matters forward, either through this board or through the full board. Which brings me on to the point I really wanted to make, and I think we need to get some clarification from you. I'll come back to in a moment, Tristan. We only have one more meeting of this investment board scheduled for April, but clearly, you know, the world doesn't stop just because we go into an election. You know, things still have to continue. And having spoken with Ian Martin this morning, obviously anything that comes through goes through the investment panel. And what I'm proposing is, because we don't have a scheduled meeting other than the April meeting, if any particular urgency crops up, hopefully you'd allow delegation to me as chairman through advice from the officers, or if necessary, we can issue an email with the details of what the investment may be, particularly through the CIF. That's probably the only one, the Collective Investment Fund. And of course, those are loans. So any matter that comes through, we will distribute to the board, because we all remain in place until such times as the election is declared. So I'm hoping that everyone would agree with that arrangement going forward. Is that okay with you, Linda? Just because I've not discussed it with you.
Yeah, I'd pick that up, as long as it's, yes, absolutely, as long as it's delegated and we give board oversight to be able to make the decision. Obviously, we will ensure with Sue, etc., that all the due diligence is in place, etc., from an officer perspective. But it's the principle from a members agreement to the principle of each of the loans. But we will only bring something through if it's time critical.
Okay, Tristan, I'll take your question now, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to go back. Sorry, I wasn't quick enough. Linda made a comment about recovery funding and that 15 million that's left. I was just wondering if you give a bit more detail about what the process for that would be and whether discussions with local authorities around that already underway.
Linda?
So there are various projects that are coming through the Recovery Forum. So the Recovery Forum, if you like, has been owning the sort of what do we need to do from a regional basis around where do we want to target the investment. And there have been various projects, if you like, and proposals that have been coming through that Recovery Forum. They've been getting an in principle okay or not, and then they're going to be continued to work up. So certainly the opportunity for individual authorities through that forum, just to see whether or not in principle this is something that we would, that collectively the leaders want to consider for funding. There's certainly two proposals going through at the minute, one via as a result of the discussion around West Midlands co-invest vehicle, and the other one being a proposal from Wolverhampton around an investment in the City Learning Quarter. So that's essentially that's the route to flag it through the Recovery Forum, and then actually it would just normally then drop into the assurance the single assurance framework to come through this normal process then for approval.
Great, thank you.
You okay with that, Tristan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions? Any hands up? Yeah, Steve Simpkins, please.
Yeah, considering that you've mentioned City Learning Quarter, declare an interest as the Cabinet member. It's part of my portfolio.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions or points of clarification before we get the dashboard? No.
Chair?
Yes. Sorry, Carl.
Can I just be clear that the board is agreeing to a delegation to the officers in consultation with yourself?
I think that's what we are agreeing, unless there's any dissent to that proposal. I think it's just expedient to be able to put something in place. So that would be a decision that we are taking now, Carl. Is that okay?
Yep, fine, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. All right, do you want to move on to the dashboard then, Ian? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. So the dashboard is within the pack. We have 9 schemes that are showing red status on completion dates only. None of those schemes, as far as we're aware at this stage, have any financial implications. They're more around extension of time required, with some good reasons, it would appear. At the moment, we're waiting proposals to come through formally through the assurance process in most cases to extend those. And I believe in the majority they'll be capable of being dealt with under statutory officer delegation.
Any questions on the dashboard? The risks are identified. I don't see any hands. Okay, moving on. We're noting. Therefore, I move on to the 3 dashboards on the investment funds, collective investment fund, brownfield land, and the revolving investment. Did you say Nick Oakley has offered his apologies, Carl?
Yes, that's right. Gerald Ganaway will be presenting.
Gerald, do you want to just go through those? If there's anything you need to highlight for us, please.
Morning. Yeah, no, as usual, these are presented for noting. So,
okay.
Each dashboard about the current status. So it's really a question if you have any questions on any of these 3 dashboards, please feel free.
Any hands for questions on the dashboards? They are just for noting at this stage. They're the public documents. I don't see any, so we'll take those and note accordingly. I now need to exclude the press and the public to pass the following resolution that in accordance with section 184 of the Local Governments Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting due to the consideration of the following items of business, as they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information related to the business affairs of any particular